Living in a homeowners association neighborhood often feels like walking a tightrope, balancing personal freedom with a minefield of petty, rigid rules. But nothing prepared me for what happened when a KOA Karen tried to force me off my own land. She had no idea the storm she was about to unleash. My family has called this neighborhood home for generations. Ours was one of the very first properties purchased when this community was still a vision on a developer's blueprint. My father, a Supreme Court justice with a legacy steeped in honor, intellect, and unwavering justice, raised me to uphold the law, but to never surrender my rights. I didn't know that one day I'd have to live out those values in a battle right in my backyard. Karen moved in just 2 years ago, but from the very first moment, she behaved like she was royalty, and we were merely her subjects. She enforced the HOA guidelines with an iron fist, treating them not as suggestions or community standards, but as divine decrees etched in stone. When I built a modest shed in my backyard, completely compliant with all HOA regulations, on my own legally owned land, Karen swooped in like a hawk, filing formal complaints. She claimed it disrupted the visual harmony of the neighborhood and lowered property values. I brushed her off, thinking this would be the end of it. I couldn't have been more wrong. One morning, I was jolted awake by the blinding glare of red and blue lights. Police officers stood at my door. Karen had actually called 911, accusing me of illegal construction and, astonishingly, trespassing on my property. I was dumbfounded. Even more shocking, they were holding an arrest warrant. I was handcuffed in front of my own home. The humiliation burned into my skin as Karen stood a few feet away, arms crossed, wearing a smug grin that made my blood boil. She paraded her victory in front of the neighbors, whispering lies that I was some criminal who didn't deserve to live in her neighborhood. At the station, I made one phone call to my father. He was livid. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, he said. It was a gross miscarriage of justice. He immediately contacted my lawyer, and within hours they were working together to free me. Once I was home, I turned my focus to gathering every single shred of proof I had: the original property deed, zoning permits, HOA approval letters, architectural plans for the shed. It was a mountain of undeniable truth. Every piece of evidence screamed that the land was mine and that I had done nothing wrong. In court, Karen's accusations collapsed like a house of cards. My lawyer, brilliant and meticulous, exposed every falsehood, every twisted fact she had presented. The judge, thankfully not my father, but a fair and impartial jurist, didn't just dismiss the charges. He launched a formal investigation into Karen's conduct, and that's when everything unraveled. Karen had filed false reports. She had deliberately misled the police. She had abused her role in the HOA to harass and bully neighbors she didn't like. The truth was a wrecking ball to her carefully constructed facade. Then my father used his influence to make sure justice didn't stop at the courtroom doors. He urged the HOA board to hold her accountable. And they did. Karen was formally reprimanded and barred from filing any future complaints without concrete, verified evidence. No more witch hunts. No more power trips. Word of what happened spread like wildfire. Karen, once feared and fawned over, became the neighborhood pariah. People crossed the street to avoid her. Her name became a warning, not a welcome. She would forever be remembered as the HOA Karen who tried to arrest a man on his own land and failed spectacularly. But what mattered most to me? I never lost my composure. I never stooped to her level. I let the law, the truth, and the legacy of my father speak for me. Karen picked the wrong person to go to war with, a judge's son, raised on justice and unshakable values. Now I sit peacefully in my backyard, the shed standing tall as a symbol of resilience and dignity. Karen, she's silent, stripped of the power she once abused. Because when you stand your ground with unwavering truth, Even the most arrogant HOA tyrants are forced to retreat,